last voicemail from Dad is 13 years old, and it still loads like a miracle on cracked glass. His voice warm and scratchy, words clipped by wind cutting across some ridgeline. If it ever feels wrong, Eli, you turn around. There's a line you can't see, but you'll feel it when you're too close. Then the pine sigh hush, and a final throat clear that sounds like a goodbye he didn't want to say. He went missing the next morning. A ranger who knew every feeder creek and elk path by scent, swallowed by the borderless hush of a national park that never gave him back. The call that drags me west arrives on a Thursday when the sky over the city is the color of old coins. Ranger Carter's voice is patient but restless. She doesn't say Dad's name until I do. We picked up a beacon signal with your father's old ID code, she says, glitching on and off near the Devil's Basin Fire Road. It could be a relay misfire. It could be one of those old caches. She pauses. You're listed as family contact. I tell her I'm a graphic designer who gets winded on the 4th floor, and that this must be a clerical cruelty. She doesn't argue. Come if you want, she says, or let it go. I don't sleep. By dawn I'm inside a rental SUV that smells like Freon and coffee ghosts, climbing into a high valley where the road narrows to a single lane the color of gunmetal. Spruce crowd the margins like a whispering jury. Clouds drag their bellies along granite. The air shifts from warm to needle cold in a single blind turn. When the pavement dies, a ranger gate waits like a judgment. The attendant inside, an older woman with rope-colored braids and eyes as blue as mountain ice, leans out and squints at me. Entrance fees $30, she says. Then softer, like a test I didn't know I'd been studying for. Don't talk to anything that talks back. I half laugh, because people laugh when they're scared on purpose. What does that? Get where you're going and get back before dark, she says. If you hear your name from the trees, keep walking. The gravel starts kicking teeth into the undercarriage. The radio sifts through static and sermons before deciding on silence. Between the pines, wind plays a thin-boned instrument, the kind that turns sound into warning. Map says Devil's Basin Trailhead. The land says not today. I park beneath a twisted fir that looks like it crawled out of a fire and kept going. The air smells like pennies and wet bark. On the signboard, laminated sheets about cougars and lightning are thumbtacked over a vandal-scratched message. The parks keep things in. I shoulder Dad's old pack, canvas softened by sweat and sun, and the leather creaks like a small animal waking. The straps remember his shape, not mine. The first steps feel like trespass. Pine duff muffles my footfalls. Every limb I lift seems to snag a memory and drag it into daylight. Dad used to sing under his breath when we hiked. Old folk songs about rivers, lines about unquiet bones and roads no one should travel twice. He'd tap my chest with 2 fingers when we stopped. What matters is this, he'd say. How it tightens when something ain't right. It tightens when the trail narrows and the light turns to green water. tightens when I pass the place where the map says overlook, but the land says don't look. Tightens most when a smell rides the wind, metallic and sweet, like a bucket of pennies tipped over dead flowers. I round a bend, and the forest opens into a boulder field littered with glacial side. Halfway across, my boot skids, I pinwheel, catch myself on my palms, and my skin meets stone that's warm like breath. For a second, no more, a sensation like something breathing in the granite rises against my hands and is gone. As I stand, I hear my name. Eli. I freeze. It's not Dad's voice. It's a child's whisper, far back where the trail darkens like a throat. The syllable is pulled thin, like someone stretching gum. I remember the gate woman's eyes. I start moving again. The basin is a bowl torn out of the mountain with a spoon. Deadfalls tangle the lower lip. A creek scribbles itself into rock. The signal on my phone is a ghost, blinking into a single bar when I hold it high like an offering. A beacon app I swore I'd never open again coughs a ping. The old code, fractured and skipping, 30 meters east, then 60 west, then 9 behind me. I sink to a knee, spread the map, feel the paper try to curl away from the wind. Okay, I say, and the word is a buoy. Something rustles in the timberline. Not the wind. A stepping, measured, back and forth like pacing. Then the smell again, stronger copper and rot braided with wet dog. I ease the pack off, pull Dad's old headlamp from the top pocket. Flick, the beam stutters. The bulb throws a tired amber coin of light. I turn to call out what? Who? And I see it. Not 15 yards away, between two lodgepoles, something is standing upright. At first, my brain puts a man there, gray hoodie, torn jeans, head bent like he's listening to a radio. Only he can hear. Then the posture breaks wrong. Too still. Weight hanging from the joints like the bones are rubber. The head lifts, and what I thought was a hood is hair matted, black, wet as kelp. The face is a bear's in negative, jaw too square, teeth small and human white, and far too many. The eyes are the part that empties me. Not animal at all, blue, not the lake blue that makes postcards honest, but winter blue, the color of ice in shadow. Dad's eyes, my eyes. It takes a step toward me, and the forest holds its breath. My mouth opens, and a sound comes out that surprises me. Dad, the thing cocks its head, as if trying a memory on. Its lips peel back in a smile. I'd rather carry a burned scar than remember. And it says, slowly, perfectly, if it ever feels wrong, Eli, the rest of the sentence doesn't come. The world lurches sideways. Light tears across the trees from the far ridge. A swing of a lantern, a ranger's flood. I can't tell. And a voice that is not the thing's voice booms from the line of dark. Back to the lot, son. Now, I run. The headlamp flickers, dies, then sputters alive like it decided to forgive me. The trail writhes under my boots. Branches claw my sleeves. The basin breathes behind me, and the smell lifts and falls in waves like tide. And through all of it, a whisper floats like a burr. Eli at the parking lot. Floodlight makes the gravel a white sea. The gate woman stands with two rangers braced like a stone fence, each holding a shotgun low. None of them look at me when I break out of the trees. They look past me, guns down but ready, attention fixed on a point I can't see. The woman's mouth tightens. Keys, she says. Leave the pack. Drive. Was it? Drive. I drop the pack. The engine catches like a breath held too long. In the rear view, the three of them still don't look at me. They look at the tree line with the kind of listening that comes from losing too much. On the case lid of the headlamp, in black Sharpie bleached by years of sweat, Dad's handwriting is still legible. 4 words written like a prayer. Don't cross the line. As the gate swings open and the lot falls behind, I know one thing in my bones I can't unknow. He didn't. He crossed it for me. Night comes at the speed of rumor in the mountains fast, and too full of what everyone's sure they heard. I check into a ranger bunk that smells like old wool and cedar and the ghost of campfire smoke. The power flicks when I press the switch, the bulb's filament burning a tired orange like it's warming its hands against itself. On the small table, a thermos, a folded note, a strip map with pencil scars where the printed contour lines are too polite. The note is 3 sentences, square block letters from a heavy hand. Beacon hits again before dawn, same basin. We go in pairs. If something calls your name, don't answer. If something uses his words, don't look. I drink the coffee, even though it tastes like the inside of a penny jar. I read and reread Dad's immature handwriting on my lamp case until the letters float. Don't cross the line. I try to sleep under the weight of a green wool blanket that feels like it was woven to hold a body through blizzards and bad years. My phone blooms with a text at 1:14 a.m., a number I don't have saved. The message is a single photo. A trail junction sign half rotted, the paint peeling down the carved letters like frost drip. In the lower right corner, a sliver of someone's sleeve gray duct tape fringing the cuff where old canvas gave up. Dad dressed like that. The caption reads, "If it ever feels wrong," and then it ends, like the sender fell asleep mid-keystroke, or a hand took the phone away. I reply before my mind can stabilize and stop me. Who is this? 3 dots bubble, vanish, resume, vanish again. A minute later, lines thin tonight. I put the phone face down like it might bite me. The room hums with an old building's murmurs, pipes clinking, wood beams exhaling. Somewhere out there in the unlit sprawl of timber and rock, something is borrowing his words, like a thief wearing a dead man's jacket to warm its hunger. I roll onto my side and watch the door. My mind builds the shape that was in the trees, a dozen different ways, like a child turning a nightmare into a puzzle that might be solvable if you name all the wrong parts correctly. I don't sleep as much as my body checks out. Dawn pulls a blade of light across the bunkhouse floor. I step outside to air that bites the teeth and smokes the breath. Ranger Carter is already there, wrapped in a down jacket the color of wet slate, eyes rimmed red like she ironed her lids. She nods at me like you do when you need a person to be a certain shape, and hope the nod will help. "We'll move quick," she says. Beside her, a man in his 50s with a bald head and a beard like steel wool works the action on a pump shotgun and does not look up. Carter jerks her chin. "Dell, don't let him run ahead, and don't let him look behind him." Dell snorts. "Learned that one the bad way," he says. He tosses me a radio that's seen a lot of mud. Channel 3, no chatter. People get nervous, and words get sticky. The trail is different in morning, crisped. The boulder field is slicker, the lichen awake. The basin is a tooth, and we step into it like we're stepping into a mouth. The air sits heavier than it did yesterday, and there's a peculiar stillness, like the wind has gone to ground. We stop at the edge, where the trail decides it's done being useful. Carter taps, the radio clipped to her strap. "Alphabet bowl," she says. A voice crackles back a mile of syllables to say, "Copy," she points with her mouth. Beacon pings pull from the east flank. Timber's bad. Stay on each other. We slide into trees that were planted wrong by someone who has never planted anything. Dell moves with the ease of a person who grew up putting his weight where it won't break him. I move like a city person pretending his legs are not arguments with gravity. Carter's hand darts back when I drift, 2 fingers tapping her hip like, "Here." We pause every 50 yards to let silence tell us if it wants to. Mostly, all we learn is that silence can be whatever it wants. At a snag where lightning found a pine and taught it humility, the smell changes. Rot and coin. Dell's nostrils flare. He tilts his head like a dog listening to rain inside a wall. "Hear that?" he whispers. I don't. Then I do. A scraping, faint, not on bark. Stone on stone, a slow slide. Then a sound my body knows from childhood. Dad whistling. 2 notes, low, high. The tune is muscle memory. My mouth shapes the start of an answer before Carter's fingers are on my wrist, squeeze hard. Her eyes pin me like a nail. She shakes her head once. My chest tightens. He taught me that whistle when my legs were small and the trail was tall. It was our way of finding each other in brush. He'd say, 2 notes, not a song. The woods don't like songs. I could put you in the car blindfolded and know the difference between a sheriff's siren and that whistle by how my ribs move. I swallow the answer. The whistle comes again, closer. Dell turns slow, his shoulders never outpacing his feet. He points with his chin toward a notch where the tree's thin and shadow holds its breath. We don't go there. We go left instead, into a thicket that grips our clothes like hands. Something follows us on a parallel line, matching pace, keeping just enough distance that we can pretend it's wind if wind wore boots. When we pause, it pauses. When we step, it steps, and then adds one, like a child needing to assert a small victory over a game it doesn't understand. The radio hisses. A voice whispers a string of numbers. Grid coordinates then, visual on cache. Carter presses her lips together, looks at me. Old steel drop box, she says. If it's his, we take it. There's no path to it. We bow and crawl and apologize to branches. We emerge into a pocket where the forest opens like a hand. In the center, half buried under moss, a footlocker sits like a memory no one wants to talk about. The paint on the lid flakes when Carter clears it with a glove. Stenciled letters swim out of green. EDA and ALS. My father's name without the dad. Something buckles inside me. A wall I built out of jokes and deadlines. And we're fine, collapsing like a shed in first snow. Dell goes down to one knee, touches the rusted hasp with a gentleness that makes my eyes sting. Seen 100 of these, he says. Never seen this name. He looks up at me. You open it. I nod because my voice has taken a walk. The lock is old and hates what I'm about to do, but it gives. The lid lifts a slow screech of metal that sounds like a trapped thing, and inside, a headlamp wrapped in an oilcloth, a map tube, a knife, a spiral notebook sealed in a zip bag with the condensation of breath from another time fogging the plastic. On the inside of the lid, 4 words written in my father's square. Stubborn hand with a thick black marker, the same 4 he wrote on my lamp case years before. Don't cross the line. Behind us, the whistle again, those 2 notes, and this time they don't come from behind. They come from the direction of the road. Dell goes rigid. Carter's face does something I don't want to watch again. We're done, she says. Grab it. Back the way a voice interrupts her. Mine, from the trees behind our backs. Hey, Eli calls, bright and breathless like he's caught a trout with his hands. Guys, I found something. The skin at the back of my neck gets cold in a way that has nothing to do with altitude. Dell's hand lands on my shoulder and squeezes once. Carter keeps her eyes on my mouth, like she needs to make sure that if it opens, she'll see it move. She whispers, "You do not answer yourself in here." The trees shift, like they've stood too long in one posture. Something between us and the road moves with regard for nothing we understand. The 2-note whistle sounds from the pocket where the footlocker is, but we are in the pocket, and none of our mouths are shaped to make sound. Then softly, from somewhere thin and high as a ridge wind, my father's voice. If it ever feels wrong, don't. Carter's whisper is a command. She points with her eyes to the lid. Read it. My father's 4 words look like they were written yesterday. The marker bled into the paint as if it wanted to live inside it. The line, I think. The unseen edge he'd swear you could sense in your sternum if you were willing to call fear the gift it sometimes is. The trees stir like animals are shaking water from their backs. The smell lifts like the rot of a refrigerator unplugged last month. From somewhere too near my right ear, my voice again. Eli, come here. Dell speaks without moving his lips. Walk. We lift the footlocker, and it's heavier than the list inside suggests. Carter takes the notebook and tucks it deep in her jacket like a heart transplant. We move, and the forest tries to make us choose mistakes. Branches that were not there now are. Stumps shift 6 inches to invite an ankle to learn humility. The sound of a running thing at our 10 o'clock paces us, then peels away, then paces again. The 2-note whistle keeps dropping like bread you know you shouldn't eat. At the tree where lightning made a split tongue, Carter stops and speaks into the radio. Alpha exfil. The reply is not a reply. It's a sound like someone dropped the radio into a bucket of voices and stirred. At the edge of the boulder field, the light changes. Not brighter, clearer. The line. I feel it the way you feel when a song modulates, and your throat knows before your head. The weight in my hands goes lighter by an ounce. Dell grunts approval, as if the mountain itself lowered the price on our lives. That's when the thing that is wearing my eyes steps between 2 rocks and smiles with my father's mouth. It does not come near. It does not need to. From 3 feet inside the place where I will not follow, it says, kindly, conversational, like a man buying nails at a hardware counter. You always were good at reading the trail, son, and for half a blink, the worst blink of my life, I believe him. The cabin splinters are the kind you only get from wood that's known longer winters than people do. The stove ticks as it cools. Dell sits at the small table, picking at a callus on his thumb, like he wants to find a splinter in there to focus on instead of everything else. Carter spreads the notebook's pages like thin bones. The cover is the color sun-bleached asphalt turns, with a rectangle of cleaner gray where a sticker used to be. Rules, she says, and the word makes me a child in a kitchen again, listening to a voice explain which berries say yes, and which will laugh while your lips go numb. She opens to a page where the handwriting is steady, but deeper into the book, a wobble crawls in like cold. I know the hand. Letters that were my alphabet before kindergarten. The first entry is dated the year I turned 12, 3 months after he vanished. But the ink is not that old. It can't be. Carter's finger brackets the lines like she's bracing herself against them. She reads, the parks are not fences to keep people out. They are lids. The law is old, and it's not ours. They can't leave on their own. They can wear us like raincoats and try. That's when you get voices where no mouth is. She swallows. If it ever feels wrong, it is. Dell reads over her shoulder, mouth moving. He taps a paragraph with the back of a fingernail. That's new, he says. Carter doesn't look up. She keeps reading aloud like her voice could be the last warm thing we get for a while. They're bound to the place. Not the lines on maps, the feel. Rivers change. Fire moves the furniture. The edge moves with it. You'll know it in your ribs. There's a section with sketches, like a biologist who hated art class, but knew the work demanded pictures. Long-limbed pale things clinging to cave walls. An elk that isn't. A lake rise with a slit pupil and bus-sized teeth. Under each, notes in shorthand. Repeat voices near complex echoes. Antlered mimicry, don't respond to calf calls. Beside the teeth, drawn by thrash. leave the surface quiet. Life on a rope only. I flip deeper. There, my name, not as part of a rule. Just my name twice, as if he was testing a pen. Eli, Eli. The two sizes look like the diameter of my life, small and louder. Carter closes the book gently, like the pages might bruise. It's not a confession, she says. It's a manual. Then where is he? I ask, and my voice is too big for the cabin. It bangs around the rafters and looks for something to break. Dell clears his throat like he's swallowing a nail, so he won't have to use it. Sometimes the beacon echoes, he says. Sometimes a cache moves, not on its own. I'm out the door before the chair finishes rocking. The night outside smells like frost and wood smoke. The stars have gathered like a council and are not interested in what we think. The ridge lights are faint pulses, ranger trucks where the road dead ends into a gate like a closing eye. I walk without deciding to. The map in my head, the one he drew with the ends of sentences and a hand on my shoulder, unfolds like a long letter I didn't answer. I follow the road, then the shoulder, then the ditch, then the deer path that pretends to be a trail only when someone watches. The dark isn't empty. It's full of things I don't let my mind put nouns on. There's a point trail runners call the place where you run out of yourself. I find it under a fir that drops old needles onto my shoulders like accusations. Dad used to stop and make me drink when I wanted to be brave and dry. Thirst makes cowards out of people who don't deserve it, he'd say, and hand me a lukewarm bottle. I didn't bring water. The rule about not running ahead falls out of my pocket like change. The basin in moonlight is worse than day, better than noon. The shadows are honest. Everything else is a guess. The boulder where I skinned my palms looks like a sleeping animal. A sound rides the brush. My name, not from behind or ahead, but from directly above, as if the moon is very close and thinks this is how you hunt. Don't, I say aloud, because sometimes the only person who will listen is the part of you that needs to be told things out loud. Don't say my name. It says my name anyway, this time in my father's voice with the sleep still in it. The way he'd say it on weekend mornings when I was small, and he wanted me to get up slow and look, really look, at the way sun climbs a floorboard. He adds, if it ever feels wrong and my throat tightens, because the worst thing about the trap is that it works because it's built from love. At the edge of the field, the air shifts temperature like you walked from shade to freezer. My ribs pinch, the line not straight, not anything that would satisfy a surveyor, presses through my chest like a proof in a math class where you believe the answer first and only later agree with the work. The night on the far side of the line is a deeper black, like ink over ink. The smell rises from there, pennies and lilies left too long in a vase. I stop with one foot lifted to step and put it back where it belongs. No, I say, and for the first time since I was 13, and the voicemail ate its own tail, I mean the word in a way that makes a thing change. He steps out 3 breaths inside the dark. Dad, or something that is very good at wearing the posture of the person who taught me how to read elk scat and the names of clouds. His beard is longer. His hair is tied back with a strip of t-shirt. His jacket is duct taped or canvas frayed. His eyes are my eyes. He raises a hand to his face and touches his jaw like he's reminding himself that it's there and not somewhere on the forest floor. Eli, he says, and this time it isn't the phone photo voice. It's the one he used to tell me stories about fires he loved, like enemies and mountain lions who watch like gods who can't be bothered to be cruel. You left, I say, because anger is easier to carry than grief when the night is full of teeth. I crossed, he says. That isn't the same. Something shifts behind him. Not a footstep, not even a weight, more like the dark remembering that it has a shape. He doesn't turn to look. He's learned to listen without taking his eyes off the part of the world that needs to be convinced that it will continue. I can't come out, he says. Not as I am, not all at once. Then why call me, I ask. And the question is a splinter that's been working toward daylight for years. His smile is small and not for me, but for something farther back in his mind. Some younger version of me running ahead on a trail with a stick like a sword, because you carry the part of me that can leave. And because I wrote the map wrong the first time, he nods toward my chest. You still have the lamp. I lift it. He nods again, approving like a teacher who had no faith in homework, and all of it in the way you carry your body when you're cold. Turn it off, he says. What? Trust me like you did when you were 4 and wanted to touch the hot stove. I turn it off. The dark leans in. The stars get louder. My pupils go hunting. What now? He steps to where the line is a river instead of a knife, where a fallen spruce rots into a bridge from one fact to another. He lays his hand flat against the bark on his side. Put yours here, he says, not on mine. Beside it, don't cross. Don't even think about crossing. The thinking leaks. I place my palm where his is not. The bark is cold where it should be damp. Under my hand, a hum starts low, as if the tree is remembering summer when winter has already set the table. In the hum is a shape. It isn't sound, and it isn't light. It's more like the way a heart recognizes a footfall a second before a mind does. The shape is a circle the size of a lantern beam. It moves slowly along the trunk, crossing the line like it doesn't care about our rules. Dad's voice is almost a whisper. Follow it with your hand, he says. Keep your chest behind you. I slide my palm along rotten bark. The hum under it, like a bass string plucked by a careful thumb. The circle of feeling reaches my side. I stop because he told me to stop, and I am tired of saving myself by ignoring him. He exhales, a sound that admits winter, but refuses to let it in. Okay, he says. That's one. One what? One piece of me that could leave, he says. One we can carry out. The dark behind him changes its mind about something. It moves closer, not with hunger, but with interest. scholar interrupted by a child's laughter, he doesn't flinch. "We have until moonset," he says, as if that is how long anyone has for anything. "If you hear me from behind you, don't answer. If I say something I only said in your mother's kitchen, don't listen. If I tell you the truth in a voice that's not mine, don't come. And if you go quiet, I ask, then you better run," he says, and smiles again, the kind of smile that says, "Forgive me for what I am about to ask you to do." We become workers at a fragile job with unsteady tools. The task is simple if explained by someone who never had to do it. Find the circles where the hum of what can cross leaks through. Move them along the bridge of rotten wood. Draw them to our side with the patience of a person convincing a frightened dog to come out from under a truck without bribery or lies. The circles are not light and not sound and not heat. They are knowing. Each time the circle slides under my palm to my side, I feel a fraction of something. I would call it weight if weight didn't pull downward, lag in my chest like a held breath. Dad keeps his hand in place on his side, palm flat and steady, knuckles white and skin chapped. I keep mine moving and my feet still. It feels like running while motionless, like grief. Behind him, the dark rearranges itself, curious but constrained. The smell thickens and thins, like tide against a pier. Sometimes my name drips from a place I don't locate on a map, and I say, "Not now," softly, the way he taught me to talk to a nervous horse. He told me when I was small that most wild things don't want to hurt. They want to not be hungry. Your job, he'd say, is to be less interesting than whatever else they smell. At the third circle, something in the dark decides to become seen. It steps forward on two legs because it wants me to be comforted. The outline is him. The silhouette is him. Even the way the shoulder drops because of an old bruise from a winter chainsaw job is him. But the edges blur. The joints aren't hinged the way they should be. When it smiles, the gums flash too pink, as if someone polished them. "You're doing good, kid," it says, and the voice is perfect in tone, and the words are wrong in choice. He never called me kid, not once. I push the circle with the heel of my hand and do not look up. A second figure slides into the blur, this one shorter, neck longer, face like candle wax worried by heat, woman-shaped, mouth too wide. It wears an expression like it wants to remind me of something I forgot to carry out of a grocery store 20 years ago. From the left, a sound like laughter combed by a rake. From right, brush answering brush. Dark builds audience. Dad does not move. "Keep working," he says quietly, like a foreman in a factory making shoes that no one will buy because the town is already gone. Halfway through the fifth, every hair on my arms lifts. The hum falters, the circle flickers, breaks into two, merges, slides away from my hand like a fish, deciding it does not trust the net. Dad's palm lifts an inch from the bark and drops again. A hiss, barely sound at all, slips from him. "Sorry," he says to the dark, or to me, or to the tree. "They pulled. Who are they?" I ask before I remember that the question has no food in it. The part that can't leave, he says. He finally takes his eyes off me and looks left, then right, then farther behind him at a place our lightlessness crowds. The part that liked the voice it borrowed, he says. The part that thinks it's a door. He turns back to me. If they try to give you something you want, refuse it kindly, he says. If they try to give you something you can't bear to see, shut your eyes and count to 5. And tell me what your lungs are doing. What are they doing? He smiles with a little too much teeth. Apology glinting like mica in a creek bed. We're about to find out. The dark inhales. Everything that isn't rot or bone, or the line follows. The sound reaches me after the air moves. A horn, thin and high. An elk bugle broken over a knee, and reassembled by someone who thought they could improve it. It shreds down my spine and hangs there like barbed wire. The first time I heard that sound, I was 9 and thought it was beautiful. The second time, I was a man in a suit reading a missing person report and wanted to throw up. Now I keep my palm on the bark and say, "It's not yours." Behind it, another sound. Whistling, 2 notes. The second flat. Wrong. My pulse decides it would like to be a rabbit. I take a breath big enough to share. My lungs, I say, because I promised, are pissed off at me, but they're in. Good, he says. And if he is afraid, he has become very good at lying to his mouth about it. We finish the 5th and 6th. The 7th tries to split, and I slap the bark like I am scolding a child who watched someone else bite and thought it looked like a language. No, I say, and this time the dark steps back like a dog that found an electric fence. The 8th makes a sound like glass in a paper bag. I cannot tell if it is the tree or the rule or me. 2 more, he says. That's all I can carry without dropping the ones behind me. And then I ask, though I know the answer, there is only ever then. Then is where the work hides its teeth. And then I step out with what will come, he says. And we hope the rest learns to follow. Or we make a door. How? He nods toward my chest. The lamp, he says. Heavier when it's off, isn't it? I hadn't noticed, until he says it, that the strap sits different on my collarbone. Weight had been creeping in like a shy thing that wants to be in the room. I set my hand for the knife, and the bark under it feels like the palm of someone who works and still holds a baby gently. The circle hum slides, thin as hope. That's when the voice behind my left ear, so close I almost feel breath, says in my father's exact tone the line that lifted me from 100 scraped knees. He couldn't kiss because we were far from kitchens. Easy, buddy, easy as honest. He did say that to me. He said it once when I was 8, and we rode out a thunderstorm under a granite lip. And he made a joke about the mountain having a tongue. He said it twice the year my mother moved to a town with no pines. He never said it to anyone in a way that could have been recorded and replayed by a mouth made of nothing. I close my eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My lungs are doing their jobs, I say. My hands hurt. My feet want to move. They don't get to. The voice says my name again, carefully, as if it's tasting it for the first time. I keep my hand on the bark. The ninth circle slides home. The hum brightens. The night changes temperature by a degree. I do not know if the change means yes. The last one, he says, and there is hope in his voice like summer in April. He moves his hand 1 inch for the first time, and the dark ripples like a pond where a stone fell a year ago, and the rings only now arrive. A shape steps into the blue-black, 6 feet to his right. It is my mother. She is younger than she has any right to be, wearing the sundown diner tee she wore on the Tuesday nights she worked late, and let me sleep in the booth, the one with the ketchup stain shaped like Idaho. Her hair is the same mess. It was the day she told him to love the parks and leave us, and she is not dead. She is in Phoenix. She smells like pancake syrup and wet wool. Eli, she says. Sweetheart, it's me. No, I say, and the word breaks me like a fever. No, you don't get to. The last circle is stubborn. It sticks to the rot like sap. I press with my palm until my hand shakes. Dad lifts his affraction, and pain hits his face like someone knocked on his teeth from the inside. It's okay, he says without looking at the woman who is not my mother. Let it be difficult. The dark behind him gathers its nerve. It surges like a crowd that thinks it has learned to be a wave. Shapes step forward. Men I've never met wearing grasses for hair. Children whose legs are wrong. A huge thing with too many teeth, polite enough to watch. The smell arches like a cat. The hum drops a half step like a song about to admit what it's really about. I push. The circle jumps. Now, he says. He steps across. It is not dramatic. There is no light, no rending. He does not dissolve the way I have watched dust do in shafts of noon. He moves his left foot, and the night accepts the part of him that will be permitted. Then he moves his right, and the night argues and loses. He is on my side with 9 of 10 parts that can leave. The 10th leans backward into the dark, like a person stepping away from a bad idea and keeping a hand on it because they loved it once. The dark becomes anger. It advances to the line and stops the way a train stops with its nose at a cliff edge after the driver fell asleep and woke up with his heart in his mouth. The temperature drops 10 degrees, then finds them again. The sound it makes is too many ducks too far under ice. Dad sags and his breath breaks, and I grab him without thinking, because I don't care if the line hates hugs. His weight is wrong, a little less than I expect, and more where bones are supposed to be. We go, I say, and I am not sure if I am speaking to him or to the rules. Behind us, the dark tries one more kindness. It says in my father's voice, Buddy, the lamp, like he used to say, Buddy, the lunchbox, when we'd get to the trailhead and realize we left it on the porch. The lamp is heavy now, so heavy the strap squeaks. I lift it and the weight swings. Inside it, the hum is brighter than under bark. Run, he whispers, and when Dad tells you to run, you run. We do, and the night behind us walks. It cannot cross, and it does not need to. It can wait. It has time the way mountains have time. We have ankles and lungs and hope like an old rope. When the floodlights at the lot burn the edges of the trees, the color of bones left in snow, Dell steps into us like a wall that loves. Carter grabs my elbow so hard I'll carry her handprint a week. The gate woman looks at my father, and for the first time since I've seen her, her mouth opens. She does not smile. She does not pray. She says, flat as stone, "You owe us a story." I look at the lamp in my hand. It vibrates like a heart you can hold. He reaches out like a man touching the cheek of a child who climbed a high thing alone. Something knocks very politely on the inside of the lamp. We do not open it. Do not open it.